What if one single moment, one single game, could change the future of an entire sport forever? This is not just a basketball story. This is a story about power, pressure, and what happens when silence finally breaks. Before this story begins, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and watch till the very end, because the ending will change everything. Because this is not just a victory. This is the story of how limits were shattered. I didn't grow up with comfort. I grew up with pressure, doubt, and empty courts. But I learned something early. Every doubt they gave me, I turned into fuel. When I finally stepped onto the biggest stage, I knew something had changed forever. This was no longer just a game. This was a responsibility. They tried to slow me down, shape my voice, and decide how far I was allowed to go. For a long time, they thought I would stay silent. But the night that changed everything, the night the world held its breath, was the night they learned I was never meant to be controlled. That night didn't feel loud at first. It felt quiet, almost unreal. The crowd was screaming, but inside me, everything went still. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel every second slow down. In that silence, all the doubt came back for one last try. Every voice that ever told me I wasn't strong enough. Every moment I almost gave up, but didn't. And then something shifted inside me. Not fear, but certainty. I stopped thinking about winning and started thinking about meaning.
I wasn't playing for applause anymore.
I was playing for every version of me that almost quit. For every girl who was told to stay small. For every dream that was called impossible. In that moment, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt ready. Not ready to game, ready to make a point. Ready to show the world what control really fears. Because control only survives where fear still lives. And fear no longer lived inside me. In that final moment, the world felt weightless. And everything I ever worked for stood in front of me. I took the shot, and the world held its breath. The sound that followed was not just noise. It was release. It was truth becoming visible. And suddenly, the world saw what I really was. I didn't just win that night. I changed what was allowed. And I changed what fear was holding back. What once felt completely impossible suddenly felt like something real I could reach. I could actually feel the weight of history lifting, slowly moving off my shoulders. In that moment, I wasn't standing alone anymore, even though I was the only one on camera. My story quietly became someone else's hope, and I felt that shift inside my chest. And when I finally realized that, I understood that nothing would ever be the same. People stopped seeing only a scoreboard and a final result. They started seeing the journey behind it. They saw the struggle, the long nights, the patience, and the belief that never left. That belief didn't arrive loudly. It grew quietly inside people's hearts. And once it took root, it refused to disappear again. I didn't feel bigger than the world in that moment. I felt connected to it. Every cheer felt personal, and every silence felt meaningful. That was the first time I truly understood what impact really means. Impact is not about volume. It is about depth. It moves quietly at first, and then it reshapes everything. After that night, nothing in my world felt ordinary again.
Even the silence around me began to sound different.
It no longer carried fear. It carried expectation instead. Expectation can feel heavy, but it can also become wings. And I chose to let it lift me upward, not above others, but toward something greater, toward responsibility, and toward the example I now carried. And from that moment on, I knew the weight I carried was no longer just my own. It belonged to every person who saw themselves in my story, even if they never said it out loud. Every silent cheer, every quiet hope, every dream that was still scared to speak. I could feel their expectations, not as pressure anymore, but as trust. And trust changes the way you stand, the way you walk, and the way you choose your next step. I stopped asking myself if I was enough and started asking how far I could serve the moment. Because standing in the light is no longer about being seen, it is about what you reflect back. I realized that courage doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as calm.
A calm that does not shake, even when the ground underneath shifts.
And in that calm, I found something stronger than fear. I found direction.
Direction doesn't shout. It simply pulls you forward, one steady step at a time.
Forward into responsibility, forward into visibility, and forward into becoming an example. And that is when I finally understood. This was never about a single moment or even a single victory. And once you carry that kind of weight, you no longer move only for yourself, you move for everyone who is watching quietly. I learned that leadership doesn't begin with a title, it begins with the way you choose to stand under pressure. Pressure never truly disappears. You simply learn how to breathe inside it without breaking. And once you learn that, fear slowly loses its power over your steps. I stopped running from expectations and started walking straight through them. Walking through them didn't make me stronger overnight, but it made me steadier with every step. Steadiness is quiet, but it carries you farther than panic ever could. Little by little, my doubts learned how to stay behind me instead of in front of me. And once doubt moved behind me, my vision finally moved forward. Forward doesn't always mean faster. Sometimes it only means clearer. Clarity changes the way you choose and the way you let go of what no longer serves you. I learned how to release the weight of comparison and carry only the weight of purpose. Purpose doesn't shout directions. It simply keeps you facing the right horizon. And once your horizon becomes clear, every step begins to feel intentional. I stopped asking what I might lose and started asking what I could become. That question changed the way I trained, the way I rested, and the way I believed again. Belief returned quietly, not as excitement, but as a steady inner promise. A promise to keep showing up, even when no one was counting the hours. Hours became days, and days became a discipline that shaped my calm. Discipline doesn't demand applause. It only asks for consistency. And consistency slowly built a strength no noise could ever take away. That strength didn't feel loud, but everything around me began to feel quieter. In that quiet, my decisions stopped shaking. I no longer rushed my choices. I let them arrive fully formed. And when choices arrive that way, you don't regret them as easily. I learned how to move forward without carrying yesterday as a burden. Yesterday became a teacher, not a cage. And the future stopped feeling like pressure. It began to feel like possibility. Possibility doesn't promise ease. It simply invites you to step forward anyway. And that is where I stand now. not at the end of a journey, but at the quiet beginning of everything that comes next.